And now I'd like to introduce one of my wonderful fellows, Jade Brooks, a 2012 fellow in fiction.
Like Monica, I started working on this yesterday. Here we go. They had been waiting at the jail since before the sun was up, watched it swell color into the sky to bring in the morning, a seashell. Eventually, Avalon heard metal move and the gate rolled back into itself. Free walked out of that place and towards the car. She had expected that he would look defeated, that he would look small and punished, but that was not so. He walked like he was marching. His fists were clenched, dread swinging. He walked like he was about to charge. He ducked into the door they had left open for him, solemn there in the back seat. "Hey, brother," Critter said soft, and he crawled on his knees towards his friend. He pulled Free into his chest. He held him there, and he exhaled, covering him with breath. From the front seat, she smelled Free. He was wearing the same clothes as the morning they had taken him from the forest, and she wanted that memory to stay alive for her in his smell of sweat and moss. That morning, her whole body had been shaking. Everything they had built was being destroyed. She knew as she helped wake the boys in the mist that they weren't prepared. A new crew of kids had just arrived at the tree sit, green and pissed. Their type thought themselves the most militant, but really they all came from the East Coast, a place they talked about like it was already lost, into subdivisions, expressways, and rust belts, everywhere sprawl. She knew some of these kids had to be cops. The one who wore sneakers that were too white, Reeboks. None of them wore shoes like that. Kid called himself Cannonball, yes, and wanted to know where they kept the guns. "There are no guns," Critter said to him, patient. "We use our bodies." The plan was this. 10 would chain themselves together to make a blockade in the road, a human layer in addition to the ditch they had dug and the logs they piled up, where their Red Cloud Thunder banner was hung like a flag. Their blockade would force the trucks to turn around rather than reaching the trees slated for harvest. But it was clear the logging company and the Forest Service had gotten wind, and they showed up in full force. A sheriff's car and a van to take them all away. They brought bolt cutters and saws, brought tear gas and Q-tips to swab in the protesters' eyes if the wind was too strong for pepper spray. They had been warned. Sure as shit, she knew then there was a snitch among them. Sure as fucking shit. As veterans, Critter was running the action, with Free doing security and Avalon on documentation. They heard the trucks long before they could see them down at the base of the mountain, the rumble and grind of engine traveling up, a machine sound, alien in the orchestra of squirrel and bird and rain. And even though she heard it coming, it still felt like an invasion. The logging trucks were huge. They made the whole ground vibrate, their wheels not rubber but chain. The timbermen who drove the trucks were big too, wearing boots that had walked around these forests for years. And when she zoomed in close on their faces with her camera, something caught in her chest. She knew these men. This was their livelihood. They made paper. They made baseball bats. They made the sawdust for hamster cages, toothpicks. They made the 2x4s that made homes. She could see what a joke her tribe must seem to them. Kids playing in the mud, nothing better to do than get in the way.